I swear, you have never seen anything like this before. One drone strike, and Russia's Black Sea port turned into fire and smoke. At 2 a.m. local time, the calm over Russia's Tuapse port shattered. A Ukrainian drone strike changed everything overnight. And here's where it gets more shocking. Just past midnight in the Krasnodar region, Russia's coastal silence was broken by the distant buzz of approaching drones. Locals in Tuapse said it started as a faint hum over the Black Sea, a sound no one paid much attention to until explosions tore through the night sky. According to the Krasnodar Regional Administration, unmanned aerial vehicles, likely launched from Ukraine, struck the Tuapse port area early Sunday morning. The drones reportedly hit critical points across the harbor, sending flames and debris soaring into the darkness. By 2:30 a.m., thick smoke billowed above the coastline, visible from several miles away. Emergency sirens echoed through the town, and fire crews rushed toward the port as reports flooded telegram channels. Authorities confirmed the port of Tuapse, one of the busiest in southern Russia, was directly hit. The attack sparked a massive fire and forced the immediate evacuation of nearby crews. People living close to the port shared videos online, a sea of orange flames reflecting off the water, glowing like a burning scar across the Black Sea. For many, it felt like a message. Ukraine wasn't holding back anymore. But wait, it's about to get more intense. Fragments from one of the drones didn't just hit infrastructure. They slammed straight into an oil tanker docked at the Tuapse port. The impact tore through the tanker's deck superstructure, igniting a chain of small explosions before setting the entire top deck ablaze. The crew on board didn't wait for orders. Within minutes, they were scrambling for their lives, climbing down safety ladders as emergency sirens screamed in the background. The Krasnodar administration later confirmed that everyone had been safely evacuated, a miracle given the size of the blast. The tanker, reportedly connected to Rosneft's Tuapse oil terminal, burned for hours. Firefighters battled the flames through the night, their silhouettes lit against a storm of sparks and black smoke. Social media videos captured what looked like a floating inferno. Orange flames licking the night sky, smoke curling into massive columns. One witness said it looked like the sea itself was on fire. And honestly, watching those clips, it's hard to disagree. Now here's the part that really matters. Why Tuapse? This isn't just any port. Tuapse is one of Russia's key Black Sea gateways, handling a huge share of its crude oil and refined product exports. This port connects directly to the Tuapse oil terminal, a vital artery for moving Russia's energy supplies toward global markets. Any disruption here doesn't just dent local operations, it ripples through international oil flows. When those drones hit, they didn't just strike a port, they struck a nerve in Moscow's export system. According to reports, the Tuapse terminal and Rosneft-controlled oil refinery have faced multiple drone attacks this year alone. Each time, Ukraine appears to be zeroing in on the same message. We can reach your economic lifelines. Analysts say these repeated strikes are part of Kyiv's broader campaign to cripple Russian logistics, weaken revenue from oil exports, and stretch military resources thin. And the strategy seems to be working. Every time a refinery burns or a tanker takes a hit, it's not just a financial loss, it's psychological warfare. So what would you have done here? Double down or change tactics? Here's where the chaos strategy starts to make sense. Ukraine isn't just throwing drones randomly across the border. Every strike is deliberate, calculated, and designed to hit where it hurts the most. Russia's energy infrastructure. Kyiv's focus has shifted toward oil refineries, depots, and pipelines, the veins of Russia's wartime economy. The goal? To cut fuel capacity, strain supply chains, and make every mile of the Russian advance more expensive. Every drone that hits a refinery means one less fuel truck reaching the front lines. Officials in Kyiv have said it openly. These strikes are retaliation, payback for Russia's relentless attacks on Ukraine's power grid, which have plunged entire cities into darkness during winter. Now, Ukraine is flipping the script, but this is no mere physical attack. It's psychological and economic warfare rolled into one. It sends a message that Russia's industrial core is no longer untouchable, that even hundreds of miles from the front line, the war can reach them. And that's what makes this phase of the conflict so different. Ukraine isn't just defending anymore, it's dictating the pressure points. Just hours after the strike, Russia's Krasnodar regional administration took to Telegram to confirm what everyone was already seeing online. The Tuapse port was hit, an oil tanker caught fire, and nearby structures were damaged. Officials described the situation as under control, but the tone said otherwise. They confirmed that port buildings and other infrastructure suffered damage from falling drone debris, while emergency crews worked through the night to contain the fires. Firefighters battled not only the blaze on the ship, but also smaller fires that had spread across storage areas in the port. Evacuations were quickly made, and no fatalities were reported. By dawn, the administration issued safety assurance messages, urging residents to remain calm and avoid spreading panic online. But it was too late. The images of the burning tanker had already gone viral, and the scale of the damage was impossible to downplay. And here's the part that rarely makes headlines: the human side of the blast. When the drones hit, fragments didn't just rain down on the port. Some of the debris flew inland, landing on the quiet village of Sosnovyy, just outside Tuapse. One apartment building took a direct hit from falling metal shards. Windows shattered, balconies were scorched, and walls cracked from the shockwave. By some miracle, no one was injured. Locals said they woke up to what felt like an earthquake: the sound of explosions, alarms, and the distant glow of fire from the port. It wasn't the first time this region had seen Ukrainian drones, but the intensity of this strike was different. Even Tuapse Station reported minor damage, with fragments striking the roof and tracks. For civilians, fear is now part of daily life. Every loud noise at night feels like a warning. In these border regions, safety isn't measured in miles anymore. It's measured in silence between explosions. Just when it seemed like a one-off incident, the pattern started to emerge. This wasn't the first time Ukraine had reached deep into Russian territory with its drones. Far from it. Throughout 2024, similar strikes have targeted Russian oil depots, refineries, and storage facilities, hitting cities like Krasnodar, Novorossiysk, Bryansk, and even Moscow's outskirts. Each attack tested how far Kiev's long-range UAVs could go, and each one went a little farther. Military analysts believe these repeated assaults are part of Kiev's evolving energy disruption doctrine, a calculated move to drain Russia's wartime fuel reserves and choke its military logistics. Every drone strike not only hits a facility, but also forces Moscow to divert massive resources toward defense and reconstruction. By targeting oil hubs instead of front lines, Ukraine turns Russia's industrial strength into a strategic liability. The message is clear: victory may no longer depend on who controls more land, but on who can keep the lights and engines running longer. Modified long-range UAVs, made up of Western and home-based parts, are the mainstay of Ukraine's drone operations. The UAVs here are often inexpensive, fast, and to some extent undetected until they cause havoc. Their mission is not the destruction of everything. It is to reduce the Russian defenses spread over a distance of hundreds of miles to a point where the standing of Moscow's radar systems and air defenses is compromised. Experts have called modern guerrilla warfare heaven. It is no longer a battle of foot soldiers, but an electronic battlefield of circuits, propellers, and remote pilots. And if the smoke over Tuapse is any indicator, the new warfare era is already here. Silent, incessant, and more unpredictable than ever before. And here is the point that becomes painfully evident. Even with comprehensive defense systems, Russia is not able to stop the drones. The Tuapse attack has shown that no matter how many radar stations, anti-aircraft guns, or electronic jammers are established, something still gets through. Experts are dubbing it the new era of precision guerrilla warfare, where small, cheap drones outsmart billion-dollar defense grids. The mathematics involved is savage. A drone that costs a couple of $1,000s can create havoc worth $1 million. The Kremlin maintains that a lot of UAVs are shot down, whereas the video evidence indicates otherwise. The spread of fire, explosions, and black smoke at oil plants indicates the extent to which even the most protected areas have become vulnerable. The state media finds itself in a tight spot. They suppress incidents to prevent public panic, but at the same time admit them when satellite images or videos appear. For Moscow, it is a defense game that is very costly in terms of resources, and one that is also draining them very fast. But the impact didn't stop at the Russian coast. The moment news of the Tuapse blaze broke, the global oil market started buzzing. Traders feared a ripple effect, a possible disruption in Black Sea exports, one of the arteries feeding Europe and Asia. Analysts began speculating that if these attacks continue, oil prices could fluctuate sharply, especially as winter approaches. Every refinery fire adds another layer of uncertainty to already tense global supply chains. Energy experts also warned that insurance costs for vessels operating near Russian ports could skyrocket, forcing shippers to reroute or delay deliveries. Some European importers even began reviewing their contingency plans, recalling the early war energy shocks of 2022. While Moscow rushed to assure markets that production and exports remained stable, the visual of a burning oil terminal told a different story. It wasn't just about the fuel, it was about fragility. One drone, one spark, and the world was reminded how tightly global stability is tied to these vulnerable coastal infrastructures. Russia, aware of this, immediately tried to restore port operations and reassure buyers that exports would resume without interruption. Still, some tankers were delayed, and insurers started reviewing their Black Sea coverage risks. Energy experts warn that if Ukraine keeps up this tempo, we might see long-term shifts in global fuel routes, a direct consequence of drone warfare now shaping world economics. And here it goes, the bigger picture revealed through this act. The Tuapse bombing was an indication of reach and tenacity for Ukraine. It could strike right through the Russian economic core and bother its crucial energy lifelines. It's a bitter pill for Moscow, as they are reminded that the sky is not completely sealed, even with heavy armament. Every drone that makes it through will gradually increase the public mistrust and challenge the military's credibility. A technological arms race has been ignited by this conflict, with Ukraine working on smaller, smarter UAVs and Russia, on the other hand, developing radar systems and jammer units. However, it is not just the technology, but the strategy that has changed. The war is no longer a matter of trench fighting. It is turning into a struggle for infrastructure, wherein oil depots, power plants, and port terminals will determine who is the stronger party. A major fire at Tuapse burning down the refinery itself, with black smoke rising above and smoke visible from space, was all very dramatic. However, the Western analysts, who had originally predicted less than 2 weeks of war over this area, connect the strike to a much larger and more deliberate attacking campaign of the Ukrainian armed forces targeting the entire industry of Russia, which is a very costly and difficult game of chess for the opponent, while the Kyiv side seeks to weaken its defense in the meantime. Besides, the initial annihilation in the area of influence, where the Russians had a stopover, depressing the semantic and psychic effects impacting the situation in the region, has had people calling it a revolution in the use of long-range weapons. Moreover, the discussions have not clarified whether the attacks are a strategic need or a risk of conflict escalation that would lead to war spreading. Russian state media have split. Some try to minimize the significance of the event, while others admit it demonstrates the military's waning strength. Both sides are now on a full-throttle drone development program incorporating AI-guided targeting and autonomous flight capabilities. The main areas of concentration for Ukraine are speed, accuracy, and cost-effectiveness, i.e., using small, clever UAVs to circumvent the enormous Russian defenses. Russia, in contrast, invests heavily in layered air defense networks and electronic jamming systems to neutralize these fast-moving threats. Military analysts say this conflict has become the testing ground for 21st century drone warfare, where innovation can shift the balance overnight. The lessons learned from Tuapse and similar strikes will shape global defense strategies, from NATO planning to Asia's maritime security doctrines. As costs drop and accuracy rises, the battlefield is evolving into a contest not of armies, but of algorithms. The Ukrainian drone attack on Tuapse left tankers in flames and infrastructure crippled, but its real impact lies beyond physical damage. This was a strike at Russia's energy backbone, a statement of reach and resilience. As Kyiv intensifies pressure, Moscow races to shield its vulnerable coasts. The Tuapse inferno may not be the last, just a glimpse of how modern warfare has redefined the meaning of distance and defense. In the silent hours before dawn, a single drone turned a vital oil port into a warning flare. This was more than an attack. It was a message. The front lines have expanded beyond trenches and tanks. Now even the skies over the Black Sea burn with intent.